Hello, my name is Emanuela Canini. I'm a migration agent and managing director of Migration World, and I will talk today about the new sponsorship pathway for permanent residents offered by the Northern Territory. The Northern Territory has signed a new agreement with the Australian federal government that allows employers of this state to sponsor skilled and semi-skilled foreign workers for jobs that they are unable to fill with local supply. The agreement is actually a labor agreement and it's called DAMA or DAMA, which stands for Designated Area Migration Agreement. As a matter of fact, the DAMA existed for some years, but the previous version didn't offer permanent residence. So now there is a lot of attention about it, and the offer is much more interesting, obviously. The DAMA, which applies to the whole territory of the state, operates through an initial temporary visa process with a TSS 482 visa, and after 3 years of work with the same sponsor, with a permanent process with an employer nomination skill visa 186 transition stream. The key elements of the DAMA are a wide range of occupations, more than 100, which reflect the lack of qualified and semi-specialized skills in the state. We find, for example, occupations that are not on the list for other sponsored visas, concessions on the English language for some occupations, salary concessions that reflect the Northern Territory market rates, and in some cases, age concessions for permanent residents. Two things to keep in mind. Meanwhile, every occupation has its concessions, so they do not apply to all of them. They are not automatic. That's to say that the sponsor must be able to demonstrate why it requires that concession. Who can sponsor? Companies that can access the DAMA must have certain requirements. They must be operational and functional for at least 12 months and in compliance with the law. They must prove that they have not found workers locally, and for this purpose the Northern Territory gives indications on how to perform the research. If they require the concessions on the level of English and on the salary, as I said earlier, they will have to justify their requests. Let's see what the concessions available are. So we start with the occupations. What occupations are included in the agreement? There is a list with the occupations that are included in the agreement and also shows the concessions that can be applied. Let's see some examples. Accountant clerk, truck or bus driver, restaurant manager, barista, waiter supervisors, carer, and other ones. The list includes more than 100 occupations, so obviously here there is no space to illustrate them all. Let's have a look at the English. You should know that not all occupations require a lower level of English. For example, barista can have a lower level, but carer can't. In general, where the level is facilitated, you need to prove these scores that you see in the table. With regards to the salary, the company can request a minimum wage concession. The required base salary that normally doesn't go under $53,900, $53,900 gross, excluding superannuation. However, there must be a valid motivation to support the request for this concession. All workers employed under the DAMA must be hired under Australian standard working conditions and receive no less than an Australian would receive by doing the same job in the same place. Wage concessions available to employers are different, but none of these falls below 10% of the 53,900 threshold. No monetary benefits may also be included in the base salary, but there are very precise rules for that too. What does the worker have to demonstrate in terms of qualifications or years of work experience? If the occupation is level 1, 2, or 3 of the ANSCO manual and is on the list of occupations normally used for sponsorship visas, that's to say the short-term list, the long medium-term list, and the list for regional sponsorship, then the worker must demonstrate exactly the same characteristics as the TSS 482 visa or the Employer Nomination Scheme 186 visa. However, there are the advantages that come from the fact that the so-called caveats do not apply. Caveats are those extra requirements required for normal sponsorship. So, for example, an accountant, we still have to show a bachelor degree and 2 years of post-qualification work for a TSS visa with DAMA, but it does not have to be sponsored by a company that has at least a turnover of 1 million and at least 5 employees, as this would be the case for a normal sponsorship. For occupations of level 1, 2, and 3 that are not part of the lists mentioned, they must have what is normally required by the ANSCO manual and at least 2 years of post-qualification work, and must be recognized by a specific training institute or by the Department of Trade, Business and Innovation. Level 4 occupation, on the other hand, depending on the type of occupation, will have to demonstrate qualifications like a certificate or a diploma and work experience, or in some cases only 2 years of related work. There are no costs for the DAMA approval request, but there are obviously the costs of nomination and visas, and these are the same of those of normal sponsorship. So how to proceed? The company applies for DAMA approval to the Northern Territory. If this is positive, the employer can make an official request for a labor agreement to the Immigration Department. Once the company has identified the worker to sponsor, the worker can then request recognition of the skills if necessary and if the occupation requires it, and then proceed with the nomination and the visa application. So what to do then? First of all, you need to know if you can fit into this option. See if you have an occupation on the list and the work experience or qualification required. Then obviously you have to find a sponsor, and apart from trying to contact employers or agencies from outside the territory, it is certainly much easier to find work if you're already there. Then you have to verify that the sponsor satisfies the requirements, and finally you can start the whole process. So what can we do for you? We can offer you a consultation to verify that you and the sponsor meet the requirements, and then we can follow the whole procedure from beginning to end. As each case is different, we will then give you a personalized quote depending on the case. You can contact us by email at info@migrationworld.com.au or by phone at the number indicated. I remind you that Migration World works throughout Australia and that also deals with other visas and procedures related to immigration, including for Canada and New Zealand. You can find more information on our website at migrationworld.com.au. Thank you, and see you soon with the next informative video.